to Conversations, Cocktails, and Connections. I'm Emily Reeves.
And I am Amy Hester.
Yay! Are you ready for a cocktail?
Always.
All right, we're going to make a Gold Rush tonight, and it is super simple. It is bourbon, lemon juice, and rich honey syrup, which I had to make the rich honey syrup. So it's hot water and honey, but it was...
I love honey.
1 part water to 3 parts honey.
Is it Arkansas honey?
It is Arkansas honey. It is. I purposely picked up the Arkansas honey. Okay, first of all, I cleaned out the pantry not that long ago and like reorganized it and consolidated some stuff. I found 6 bottles of honey.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I've ever been on like hardcore diet, which hasn't been this year because of this mess that we're in, but if I've ever had like a sweet tooth where I just need like a taste of something, I would like put a tiny bit of honey on my fingertip and just, it's so good. Like I love fresh honey.
Super disciplined. Like when I need,
girl,
like
okay.
I get in the store, I go get my peanut M&Ms.
That might
from the
happen
grocery
one
store.
time. So please don't be impressed by any. I'm the world's worst with like just sticking to. Or being able to not grab a brownie if it's sitting in front of me, like if you're at a party,
like self-control or
self-control.
whatever.
Yeah, I have none. So I'm real mad about the name of this drink. I'll tell you why. Because we didn't win the lottery.
We did not win the lottery.
Gold Rush.
I know, but the lottery is
still going.
Still going. I mean, well, I don't know. By the time this comes out, somebody might have won.
We need to go to like Sheridan and buy a ticket.
But Donna
I know.
That you're more likely actually to win where they sell a lot of tickets. So
in a small town. I mean, I'm not kidding. Okay.
Do you have the shaker top?
You got the big balls iced out.
I got the big balls. Okay.
So shake it. Yeah, I do like, easy components to this drink. It's gonna be good.
Get our shaker nice and icy.
Emily looks so cute in her glasses.
I can actually see. I can see the screen when we're doing this.
I love you in those glasses. They're super cute.
I love that I can see, but thank you.
You're welcome. I had a big conversation about new glasses today, which I need to, because I really do need to get my eyes checked, and I really need to start looking. I wish there was one store that had like really trendy, but not too trendy, just classic. I don't know. I'm real picky with my glasses.
I know. I really like Mr. Franks and Burrow, or Burrow and Mr. Franks, or however. I always get it wrong. I've bought glasses from them for years, and I've always really.
Do you get your eyes checked there too?
I get my eyes checked from my eye doctor, but.
Do they have it? Do they have an
Not
optometrist?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think you have to come in with your prescription.
Well, yum.
Okay, so
frothy.
This is
it smells delicious.
the Gold Rush. Cheers.
Cheers, my friends.
Yeah, that's tasty. I mean,
that
how
is
can you go wrong?
So good.
That honey makes a huge difference. Like you can taste.
Oh my
the
gosh.
denseness of that honey.
That's a top. This is a top.
Yeah. That's good.
It's really good. Really quickly, we have an amazing guest tonight that I've never met personally. I follow his blog and his social media. The Mighty Rib.
The Mighty Rib, Kevin.
Yes.
And we are excited to visit with him because of the.
Like, I'm gonna be hungry if I look at his Instagram because it's insane.
He's on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and then he has a blog, and I think he's got contributors to the blog. So I'm kind of curious how all of that works because he covers so much food. I'm sure he can't do it all himself, but
I mean,
or maybe
he's
he does.
not a big guy. I mean, like, when you think of like a food person, they're gonna be like maybe a little heavy. No, he's not.
He's got balance somewhere in his life. So let's visit with him.
Okay. Cheers.
Gold Rush.
It's good. It's really good.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how are y'all doing?
Hi. Good. How are you?
Good.
It is so nice to have a face to a Instagram name and blog.
Same here.
I know. Oh my gosh. The actual Mighty Rib person. I mean, so Kevin,
Yes.
Welcome.
I don't want to
Welcome.
call you Kevin. I want to just call you the Mighty Rib.
I have a name. Yes.
And I love that you're a redhead.
Yeah. Well, I used to be a lot more of one, but I still have my beard.
Yeah. Do any of your kids have red hair?
No, I have a brunette and a blonde. So no redheads.
Well,
No
someday,
natural redheads.
someday they might.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
So,
What are you drinking tonight?
Yeah.
I am drinking an old fashioned.
We love
And,
an old fashioned.
It's not just any old fashioned. I'm lazy and I kind of cheated. It's what I usually do at home. I went to Brewed and Barley and I got there. They sell this old fashioned syrup that the bartender David Burnett makes. And I don't know if you're familiar with David Burnett, but he used to be the bartender at South on Main. And he's been at Brewed and Barley for a while now. And you can buy this for like $15 and it makes several drinks. All you have to do is add your bourbon. It's great.
Ooh, we should try that.
We should definitely try that. That's a great idea.
Ooh,
Yeah,
yes,
his old fashions are my favorite. And when he started selling this syrup, it's just so easy to do at home.
Yeah, that's really nice. I do remember him. I think he might have worked at when you got married.
Oh,
Like-
I had my wedding at South on Main.
Yeah,
And,
okay.
I'm pretty sure he was the bartender.
I would not remember.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you.
Or around, he
was-
may not have been there then, but he probably was working there at that time. But I'm impressed that, so how do you do it in COVID with what you're doing? Like, so explain to people that do not know the Mighty Rib, explain what it is first.
Well, the Mighty Rib is a food blog that I've been doing for about 10 years now. And it started when I was living in Houston. I was a high school teacher for many years. And I was just doing it. I wanted to start writing as a hobby again. I was a writer in college, a sports writer, and wanted to start writing again. And my wife and I took a trip to Kansas City. We took a weekend trip. And it's the first time I'd been there. And we just ate all weekend. And I didn't know anything about food other than I love to eat. I mean, I had no knowledge, no formal knowledge, anything like that. And I came home after that weekend and I said, I think I can write about food every day. I think I can do it and not seem like an idiot about it. And I just started and that was it. I mean, a lot of people asked me where I got the name from, the actual name, the Mighty Rib. And it was inspiration from the Oklahoma Joe's barbecue restaurant in Kansas City. I sat down. It was at like 5:30 in the morning that following Monday, and I was like, I got to call this food blog something. And I said those ribs were amazing. Anthony Bourdain, it just did a huge write up on this place, and I said, well, I'm just going to call this the Mighty Rib, and that was it. I didn't think it would.
Listen.
Blossom into what it is now.
Were you still teaching at the time?
Yes, I was still teaching, and I started writing just for my blog. It was one of these free blog sites, and my thing was every day I made it a point that I was going to write something because I would go to all these other blogs. Back then, blogs were just a dime a dozen, food blogs anyway. And I said, well, I'm just going to write something every day because when I would go to these blogs, they would go months without writing anything. Yeah. Well, why do I want to follow that? So I was like, I'm going to separate myself by writing something every day. I don't care if it's a paragraph, just something where it became like a working journal. And about 6 months after that, the Houston Press had an opening for a real paid food writer position. It paid almost nothing, but I didn't care. I was like, someone's gonna. So I interviewed and I got that job, and I became a freelance writer for the Houston Press. And I did that. That's when it really blossomed, where I was just excited. I did all these different assignments, and anything they have pop up, I said yes to. And Houston was amazing. It's an amazing food scene. You could go to interview chefs and go to different events every night if you wanted to. So it was very exciting. And fortunately, we ended up moving to Boston. My wife is a physician she's a physician now at UAMS, and she was finishing her training. She had 1 year left of her fellowship, and we moved the family to Boston. And I did the same thing. I dove into the food scene there. I didn't know if I was going to be living there for a year or the rest of my life. And it turns out it was just 1 year, and she got an interview down here in Little Rock, and I told her I did not want to live in Arkansas and she came down, really enjoyed it, and I came on the second interview, and I loved it as well. They were smart. They took us to Ashley's. They knew I was a food writer.
Yeah.
And they took us to Ashley's, and that just blew me away that something like that existed in Little Rock. Like, because your perceptions of places sometimes can skew your way of thinking. And that was one of the nicest kitchens, even to this day, I've ever been in.
Yeah.
That was just a world-class kitchen, which is now 111. So we ended up moving down here, and it was the best decision we ever made. I mean, we've been here almost 9 years, and we love it. We love being in Little Rock, and I think we're going to be here for a long time.
Where are you originally from?
From Houston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I grew up
I'm sorry. I remember when I went into the kitchen. I don't know how I got the tour of the kitchen and why they gave me a tour at the time. Must have been with somebody that was interested, but from not knowing really anything, when you walked in there, you're like, holy shit.
It's amazing.
It's like the coolest. I mean, you could eat off the floor. It was so beautiful and just clean. And I mean, I think every single time that they bring in a new chef, the chefs can actually change it to what they're wanting to do. What'll make the best, I guess the French chef, he's not there anymore. Well, obviously they're closed, but I don't know what that guy's name is, but I think he changed it all. And
you're right.
I don't know what it's like now, but
do you remember what you ate there?
Oh, that's a great question. No, I don't. I just remember, I remember getting, after our dinner, they said, well, you want to come back in the kitchen? And at that point, I'd gotten a few kitchen tours, and I've been back in kitchens, and I've interviewed chefs back in kitchens. So I was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. But when they took me back there, like it just blows you away. The things, the different equipment that they have, how pristine everything was, just how well trained the entire staff was.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting to see it at that point, because a lot of cooks in that kitchen really they branched out, and that they've made what our food scene is today. Right now, there's so many great chefs that came out of that kitchen at that time. So it was just a really nice thing to do at that particular time, and it's not like that made us come to Little Rock.
That sold you.
It sure did make me a lot happier, because I remember thinking like, okay, we're going to maybe move to Little Rock. I wonder if there's an Indian restaurant in Little Rock. I wonder if they have a Chinese restaurant. And those are the things that are going through my mind. And the whole time I'm thinking, well, this wonderful little food writing thing I've been doing is over now. And there's no way I have anything to do in Little Rock. And boy, was I completely wrong. I've now stopped teaching. I'm now a full-time food writer. So, it's amazing where it can all go to. But the thing is, like, I've always viewed the Mighty Rib as my home base. It's my blog. One of the great things I take pride in with the blog is that there's no money involved in it. There's never been any ad dollars. And I'll take free meals. I try to keep it as genuine and as pure as possible. And I think the readers appreciate that. Everything else that I've gotten, either freelance gigs or I'm working for AY magazine now as their food editor. Those are paid positions, but all the work I put into the Mighty Rib, it is all just, it's free, and it's a labor of love, and it's a real passion of mine.
That's really interesting. I don't think I realized that. I mean, I knew that you did other like paid writing gigs, but I mean, I would assume at, 10 years in that you were, getting your meals comped or doing ad dollars or sponsored posts and that kind of stuff. So that really is fascinating to keep it that pure. And I guess that makes it really super honest, right?
Yeah. Anybody would completely trust your opinion because you're not getting paid or to promote that one restaurant.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people still wonder, like, is this guy getting, I still have to deal with that from time to time. And that's the nice thing about it is when someone does pop up on the blog and goes, well, you've really been promoting this restaurant the last week. They must be giving you free meals. And it's, my response is no. In fact, no one does. And I don't have to worry about any backlash or restaurants saying, hey, actually we do, because they don't. So it's really nice to not have to deal with that. And I'm not knocking blogs that do monetize things.
Sure.
I think that's great as well. It's just not the avenue I wanted to take with it. I always wanted to just keep it free, and it helps eliminate anything that pops up. And I can always be completely honest with the audience. And like I said, I still get called out from time to time, but that's just that goes with the territory. So I don't mind it.
So how often are you eating out? Because you cover a lot of food.
Yeah, I think a little bit it can be deceiving just because I've been doing this long enough. I don't eat out as much as you think I do.
Sure.
I have a lot of people comment, how are you not 500 pounds?
I did say that earlier.
Yeah, I get that a lot. And you must eat out all the time. The truth is I don't, because I can't afford to eat out every night. It's very expensive. And, I'm 43 years old. I don't want to die being, because of this. I don't want health ramifications, things come up. So I practice moderation to a great extent. And I try to limit eating out to 2 or 3 times a week, usually on the weekend. I would say Monday through Thursday, I cook a lot at home. And even when I do eat out now, I really try to practice moderation. To me, I know it's going to seem kind of crazy to hear this. The exciting part for me is not so much the food anymore. It's finding the food and letting people know about hidden gems. It's kind of like the hunt,
So that was going to be like one of my questions, because I would really curious to be like, what is your top hidden gem in Little Rock?
Oh gosh, there's so many.
Or top 5, or top 4.
The one that I'm very proud of, that I felt like I made a big difference early on, was a little Mexican restaurant called El Palenque. And when I moved here, I don't think a lot of people knew about El Palenque. I'm not trying to say like I discovered this restaurant or anything. It had been around, but it literally was like hidden, tucked in a corner of a retail strip. And I'm from Houston. I tell you, I don't brag about knowing a lot about food, but I know Mexican food. I mean, every Friday night of my life was Tex-Mex. And so I know good Mexican food when I see it or taste it. And we just kept going back to El Palenque, and I kept writing about it more and more. And it's, you can't even get in El Palenque. You couldn't for a while. And then they bought the plot next to it, the space next to it. And now they've doubled the size of the restaurant. So it's a very popular restaurant now, but that used to be a hidden gem. One thing I'm very proud of the work I've done over the past year is with the Black-owned restaurants. When everything happened several months ago, I had readers reach out to me and say, I want to support some Black-owned restaurants. Do you have some you could recommend to me? And I had 4 or 5 that I'd gone to routinely. And I was like, that's just not good enough. I need more. There's got to be some more out there. And so I posed the question on the blog, and within an hour, we had 35, 40 suggestions. And awesome. by the end of the day, we had 100 different Black-owned restaurants in Central Arkansas, mainly in Little Rock. And then someone offered to do an image where we put all the 100 names on one image, and that image went viral. And I'm not kidding you, the 10 years I've been doing this blog, that was the most viral thing I've ever been associated with. Just thousands and thousands of shares, because everyone was really excited about all these Black-owned restaurants. And for me, it was so exciting because, many of these places I'd never heard of. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, if I've never heard of them, 99% of Little Rock has never heard of them. So I've made it a real goal of mine, a mission, the past several months, to find these restaurants, eat at them, report on them. If they're great, let people know about them. There's just so many of them. Burger places, trying to think. K Hall Sons is a popular place, but right around the corner is another place called Brewster's Cafe. So many great food trucks. I just reported on this food truck. It's fairly new. It's called Afro Bites. It's African food, and it was one of the best meals I've had in Little Rock since I've lived here.
Where is it?
It's right down the block from K Hall and Produce, and it's on Wright Avenue, 1702 Wright Avenue, and they're set up there on weekends, and the food is amazing. I had not eaten a lot of African food in my life. It's like a lot of rice, very flavorful, stewed okra or stewed black-eyed peas, cabbage, lamb shank. It is just great food. Just finding those places, you can label them hidden gem or underrated or what. That's been a real passion of mine this year is reporting a lot of the Black-owned restaurants.
That's awesome.
I remember seeing that graphic. It popped across my social feed multiple times. So that was a really cool thing to be able to do. How have we know restaurants are suffering because of the 2020, pandemic closings, openings, and all that. And it sounds like you're still going and eating in restaurants. How are they doing? Do you think that many of them will start? I think we know that they're struggling, but do you think that that they'll be able to climb? Most of them will be able to climb out of it.
They're all struggling. They're all hurting. And to answer your question, I do not eat in restaurants. That's another thing. Another thing people don't realize, and it's been a real challenge for me this year. I'm a food writer that doesn't eat in restaurants. I've been eating when it was not so cold. We did a lot of dining on the patio dining, a lot of takeout, but I'm married to a doctor, and that's not going to happen. Eating inside of a restaurant, like I said, I'm not looking down on folks that do, and of course, I'm going to promote restaurants, but restaurants are hurting right now. I think it's going to be a tad easier in Little Rock than you would see in these bigger cities where rent is just crazy high. It doesn't seem to have had a tremendously negative effect yet with restaurants going out of business. We've had some restaurants go out of business, but restaurants go out of business in great ways. That's just the nature of the business. But restaurants are definitely hurting. And I've really taken a much different approach on the blog this year because of it. I don't know if it's exhibiting more grace or just understanding, but I've tried to take a much, much more positive, actively positive tone and role and really promoting these restaurants and getting people to get out and support them, whether it's through takeout, through patio, through in-house dining, through gift cards, even things that don't cost you any money. You know how important it is when you eat at a restaurant, it's a good meal, and you post it on social media and share it. I mean, that is critical for these places, and that doesn't cost someone anything. So I've taken a much different approach this year, and I think people have enjoyed it. I hope they have, but the longer I do this, I definitely try to keep a safe distance for the most part from folks in the industry. It's just easier doing what I do when I have a safe distance. Yes, I have a few friends in the industry, close friends, but for the most part, I try to keep a nice distance. But I also make it a point to talk to chefs, go into the kitchens, see what's going on. It just makes you attached to the situation, and it makes me want to let others know the hardships that so many people are going through right now. And, as simple as, I receive negative comments on my blog all the time. I hate that restaurant. I hate that meal. And what I try to point out when I respond to someone is not really with anger, but to let them know, like, people are reading your comments, and you may have had a bad meal, but when you say it like that, it can affect people from going to that restaurant. It can affect that restaurant's staff. It can affect their family. I mean, there's just so many people's lives you affect when you just kind of shoot from the hip and mouth off, so to speak.
I feel like sometimes there's these people that, I feel like I'm loud. I feel like there's sometimes people that are always going to be those that just comment, but they're going to just say the opposite. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
there,
just
yeah,
to be a dick.
yeah. I've said this for many years now. I've never known any restaurant that is universally loved. I mean, it just doesn't exist. You can have the most perfect meal, and someone's going to complain. Someone's going to see it and find fault with it. Or you look at a restaurant, the pantry, for example, beloved. Everyone loves the pantry.
Mhm.
There's going to be comments. Oh, I didn't like this about that. And it's just everyone is a critic, and one thing I noticed, I pointed out to my wife the other night was, we've got a lot of tension in our world right now, in our country, and a lot of times I can feel it on the blog. I know it sounds crazy, but I
Yeah.
get all these comments, and I'm like, man, people are really riled up at this point in time, and it makes a lot of sense. Sometimes they go to my blog to release a little steam, and it may not have anything to do with food. So you gotta be aware of that as well.
But there's also sometimes people have a bad night. I mean, if you're anything in any kind of service industry, if you have a bad time or a bad service or bad food, I mean, give them another chance. There's somebody always can have a bad night.
Yeah, a chef once told me, there's no chef or restaurant that is looking to serve you a bad. They're going into it wanting you to have your best night and a great time. They're not trying to do this, and you got to understand that you're right. Especially now, restaurants are understaffed. Even if they're not understaffed, they may not have their A staff that night. There's all sorts of crazy things going on where you've just got to give these restaurants a little more grace. And maybe I've softened a little bit through the years where, like I said, I'm around these people more and more, and I just understand their situation they're in so many times. But I just wish people would understand that it's difficult, even in the best of times, to run a restaurant, and certainly now more than ever, it's very hard.
Of course. So I'm going to shift gears just a little bit because I'm super curious about your process. Like if you're, visiting all these restaurants and ordering all these different dishes and taking notes, what is your process for tracking all of that? Do you have like some massive database where you can go in and search like tacos whenever you need to do like a best of tacos list? And Amy's probably going to like get mad at this. But I just think that's super interesting, like the whole process and kind of back end of running the blog.
Gosh, another great question. That's a big part of what I do. You'd be surprised. One of my best tools is actually the search button on the Mighty Rib Facebook page, where you can go in and type in taco, for example, or type in a name of the restaurant. It'll take me to everything I've ever written about that restaurant. And so I've written for multiple publications. So, you don't want to be repetitive. So anytime I think of an idea, I'm like, all right, when's the last time I wrote about that? Who did I write for? As far as taking notes, I used to when I first started, and I remember going to like my first blogger event. There was like 7 or 8 food bloggers sitting around this table, and I was brand new, and I'm just jotting down notes. Everything that's coming to the table, I'm writing, and the guy's like, "Don't do that. Just don't do that." So I learned my lesson. You just take mental notes, and sometimes you get home, and if it's something really important, you jot it down. But that's about the process. I have a huge database of photographs that dates 8-9 years at least. I can go back, and you'd be surprised. I use pictures from 7-8 years ago that I still use now. So
when you go to a restaurant that you've been before, do you always try to order something different?
Yeah, pretty much. Especially if I know I'm gonna write about it. I definitely think about that sometimes. Like, I want to write about all these different things, but we all love what we love, and sometimes you eat a certain dish at a restaurant that you know it's going to be great each time. You want to stick with it. I can't really do that doing what I do. But on the flip side, you get to discover things. And there's nothing that excites me more Like when I'm going to a restaurant for the first time, I think people think, whether you want to call me a blogger or a food critic or whatnot, I think people think there's like some joy in pointing out the bad or the negative of the restaurant. There's nothing that excites me more than going, if I have to like drive out to Bryant, for example, and if the meal is great, I just cannot wait to get home and get in front of my computer and write it up and let others know about it, because I know I can make a positive impact on that business. And that doesn't come overnight. I've worked many years and worked hard for that, to have that platform where I feel like I can make a difference. And that is important to me. And that took years. That's another thing. People think you can just snap your fingers and have a base of people that follow you. And like I said, I've been doing this 10 years. It takes a long time and a lot of consistency.
Have you heard of going to the new casino in Pine Bluff and eating there?
Yeah, I get messages all the time. Someone just messaged me last week and they said I had a fantastic meal at this casino. And yeah, when someone messaged me, I really appreciate it. And I don't just say, yeah, I'll get to it. I mean, I say that, but I mean it. I write things down. I have notebooks all over the place. I jot things down. I take notes. I love just off the wall recommendations. Someone messaged me last week about this little Indian food place in a gas station on the side of I-40 near like Van Buren or something. And I'm like, yeah, just crazy, like how would I end up there? And I go on the map and I look at it and I'm like, well, I have to go see my in-laws in Oklahoma City a couple times a year. I just jot it down. You never know. I might be hungry on that trip. I doubt it, but I love getting those types of suggestions.
Yeah.
And reporting on these hidden gems,
Yeah. Well, I'm from Pine Bluff, so I'm waiting for, I'm not going to the casino right now, but I've actually had quite a few people come to me and they're like, actually the food is really good. I'm like, well, that's interesting.
There's a couple places in Pine Bluff. So you've got the bakery that's been around forever, Librans, sorry. Mm-hmm. But there's a new butcher shop in Whitehall that is just fantastic. It's not big. It's called Whitehall Fresh Market. Oh. And I told him, I was like, I wish we had this in Little Rock. We have nothing like it in Little Rock. He's got That's seafood, awesome. Like really great seafood, all great cuts of meat. I wrote an article about him a couple months ago. There's a place, it's not in Pine Bluff, but I've been wanting to cover it for a couple years now. I just haven't made it out there. The airport, Grinder Field, am I saying that? Grinder?
I think so.
Yeah, there's a restaurant that serves soul food in the airport that's supposed to be amazing. So to me, that's a great story. That, a restaurant in a little airport near Pine Bluff, that to me that's a great story. I've had some fantastic catfish at the hospital in Pine Bluff because someone alerted me to it. Yeah, I mean, things like that. Yeah, like really good, great catfish, collard greens.
Wasn't there there was a couple of years ago, there were a lot of people talking about the Heart Hospital and like the food at the Heart Hospital was supposed to be really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was crazy how that blew up. They were doing the ramen on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. And it was like $5 ramen and it just blew up. And CBS National News did a report on them. That was part of they interviewed a bunch of people. I was involved in it. It was like a national story about this ramen in the Heart Hospital. So, it's fascinating how
Is it still there?
Yeah, they still do it. Yeah.
Okay.
The chef is not there anymore, but I haven't been there in a while, but they still do the ramen. Yeah. And it's really awesome. It's legitimately good.
Okay. What's your favorite pizza place?
My favorite pizza place is, it's DeLuca's in Hot Springs. That's the best. But there's the place in Benton that I really was impressed with. It's called Valhalla. It's Valhalla Pizza and axe throwing. I'm not into axe throwing. I could give a shit about axe throwing, but the pizza is fantastic. And in Bryant, in Bryant, there's My Little Pizzeria, New York folks that do that. That's really good pizza. Those are probably the three best. Here in Little Rock, I love the pizzeria. There's a new black-owned place called Certified Pies that's really good. And I feel like I'm missing a place that stands out.
Gosh, I want to hit all these places up.
Yeah, but yeah, we've got some good options. I like Vino's. I still like Vino's. I like the character of Vino's. I like the smell in there. I like how it's old and dingy.
Yeah.
I like that kind of place.
What about hamburger?
Oh gosh, hamburgers. K Hall and Son Produce is a great burger. My ultimate favorite though is and people are always surprised when I tell them this, is Ciao Bocce. Ciao Bocce has a great burger. It's my favorite. It's my number one. I do a huge post each year ranking. I guess maybe I do top 20 or 25 burgers, and they're at the top of my list. Leo's is very high. Leo's Greek Castle is very high. The Pantry does a great burger. Lots of little places that, like little, like Dairy Bar burgers, things like that. They're good.
Like I'm really hungry right now.
As far as like a really nice kind of upscale burger, Ciao Bocce is number one for me.
That is so good to know. I would have never, ever thought about that. Because I mean, I've always just honestly gone to Ciao Bocce for drinking.
Ciao Bocce, quite frankly, is one of my favorite, if not my favorite restaurant in town. And it was interesting because it did not used to be like that. That's a great example of how you give places a second, even third chances. I didn't like Ciao Bocce. I had issues with it the first 2 or 3 times I went. And I just kept going back because I'd heard great things about the chef Jeffrey Owen. And he's so creative, and it's over the years, it's turned into my favorite restaurant. I just love his creativity. I love how casual and relaxed it is. It's one of the few places I still dine out because they do such a good job with their outdoor dining, but they rotate their menu quite a bit. I love their staff. It's just a very warm, casual environment, but they do upscale things. A guy like Chef Owen at Ciao Bocce, I feel like he could go to any city and be great. Not just, he could go to New York City, he can go to Houston, Dallas, anywhere, and he'd be a great chef.
That's such a compliment.
Yeah.
I'm totally gonna order. We don't go out to dinner either, my husband and I. So
yeah, we haven't eaten in a restaurant either because
we get either takeout or HelloFresh.
Yeah. We're doing lots of
I just don't feel comfortable with it right now. And, but I still try to do things that support these restaurants and, takeout is a big thing. The hard thing about takeout and me is I want to showcase this food is it's hard to showcase it properly with takeout, and the truth is, as much as I love writing, we live in a society now that has such a short attention span. A lot of times, if you can just get people to look at the picture, you've won. If you can get them to read 30 words without losing their attention, you've won. So the food photography is every bit as important as the writing. And when you're doing takeout, you just can't capture the food properly. So one of the things I've done this year is I've really gotten into our growing food truck scene, which is an area of food that has really grown, in my opinion, because you can start a business for a limited amount of money. In these hard times, I'm starting to see more and more, not only numbers of food trucks, but the quality of food coming from the trucks is a really positive thing.
That's awesome.
What are how do you go about shooting the photography for the food? What are some tips for getting the best shot you can?
Natural lighting is number one. I remember when I was living in Boston that year, I was fortunate enough to have a tour of America's Test Kitchen. It's the Channel 8. They do a huge show. And I was like, where are all your gadgets and your things for food photography? And the guy just opened the door. He's like, see that closet? It's all right there. Because I had this big window. So natural lighting is the most important thing. If you want to get as technologically savvy as you can. That's one thing. But I don't want to bring attention to myself like in a restaurant. I don't want a big camera. I want to slip in and out. But you always want the light coming from behind you. And when I go to a restaurant, when I was dining in restaurants, you want to sit near a window. And if it's really dark, there's some restaurants that I just hate taking pictures in. The lighting is poor, but it adds to the ambiance, so I can understand why they do it. Like Table 28, great restaurant, terrible to take food pictures in. Ciao Baci is another one. It's a train wreck. I hate taking pictures in there because it's so dark. So then, you got to do the thing. My wife, she'll stand and do the backlighting with her. It's embarrassing. It really is pathetic. But what can you do? You got to do it.
Yeah.
So
get the job done.
Yeah, I used to be so ashamed of it. Now I could care less. The looks you get when your wife is holding the camera phone and with the light in a dark restaurant. But you make it quick and you go about your business. But to answer your question, the most important thing is natural lighting. I remember when I first moved here, I went to Whitewater Tavern for the first time because they had this great cook there that made these sandwiches. And it's like dark in there in the middle of the afternoon. So we took all of our food and we just left the restaurant. We walked in the parking lot and took pictures and walked right back in with all of our food. And they thought we were crazy, but you got to do those things.
Yeah.
You probably want it dark in there.
Yeah, you do want it dark in there. We love Whitewater.
Yeah.
So something like you're talking about takeout, the one thing about takeout, and if any restaurant is listening to this, that drives me crazy is when you get fries and they do not vent.
And it just don't travel well.
It does not travel. Like you either poke a hole in the top of the styrofoam or you vent the container. And then when by the time you get home, you're like, okay, damn it, I have soggy fries.
I got a solution for you. You eat the fries in the car.
On the way. Yeah.
But no, seriously, I mean, I do that, but seriously, like, that's one of the hindrances that I've been dealing with this year. Like, fried catfish is a huge thing. People love when I report on fried catfish. Fried catfish is not ideal for takeout. So, I do a lot of my taste testing like right in the car. Is the least I can get the essence of the food right then and there. Even a quick drive home can ruin fries. You're right, they don't vent it properly. But there are some restaurants I've been so impressed with how meticulous they are with their packaging, their takeout packaging. Murray, for example, with all their sushi is great. Baja Grill is wonderful. I eat there a lot. I live close to Baja, or fairly close. And is that where your salon is?
Yeah, it's right next door.
Yeah,
it's in the same building. We're just we're attached, but
you do. Are you responsible for that paint job? It is fantastic.
Thank you.
I really like it.
Thank you.
Really like that a lot.
It made that space is such a weird add-on. I mean, I don't think it's ever an add-on. It just looked because we painted it red. I painted it red when we moved in there, and the lot slopes. So if you were to take a picture of it from the side, it's it looks like you put a trailer or something attached it to the side. But I swear that paint job, Talia did it. An artist, local artist. And now when you take a picture of it, it just evens out. I don't know. It just did so much for that corner.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. And, I remember before Baja took over that space that for a long time, people said that spot is cursed for a restaurant. And I said, are you crazy? It's on the corner of Kavanaugh University Heights. I was like, it's not cursed. It just needs a good owner.
Yeah.
And now they do. Now they have good ownership, and a shocker, it's very popular all the time.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love the space. I wish their restaurant was a little bigger because they would cut down on wait times on a Friday night. Mm-hmm. But I've always loved the food at Baja, even when they had their food truck in Benton many years ago. That's when I first found out about them.
Yeah, that it is good. Their cheese dip's really good. Well, Mexican food, this is another little pet peeve with like, if anybody could take hints from my opinion on food for takeout in Mexican restaurants, when they try to put the sides, like the pico or the salt, the sour cream or whatever, like separately. Cause if you have any kind of like breading, the juice from the tomatoes I'm real particular about that. Cause by the time you get home, your stuff is soggy or
it's contaminated.
Yeah. It's like, it doesn't even taste right. So hello, restaurant.
I couldn't agree with you more. And that's why there's certain restaurants that I've been hitting up more than others because of their packaging, their to-go packaging. And Baja is they're amazing. Heights Taco and Tamale. I remember many months ago, I got their family feast meal, whatever the hell it was. It was just tacos galore and everything was separated. It was beautiful. It was and it was all in this big box. So the restaurants that get that during this time are the ones I feel have been successful to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. And a lot of restaurants that have pivoted and done things differently. Reduno is another example of a restaurant that's gotten very creative over this last year. I'm a huge fan of restaurants that now have not only online ordering, but Facebook ordering, where you can just go straight to Facebook, click on the order button. It's just done. All your information's already in there, and it's literally like 3 or 4 clicks and the food's ready.
This one likes it easy like that, right?
Yeah. I don't want to have to pick up a phone and call anybody. If I have to call somebody, it's not happening. Moving on to the next one.
I completely agree. Yeah. There's an actual company that has helped all these I forget the name of it, but it's helped all these restaurants set up Facebook ordering, and it's really helped their business quite a bit.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, so tell everyone what your handle is and all your social media, how to follow anything that you're writing on your blogs, how to just keep up with you.
Yeah, everything, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all at The Mighty Rib. That's easy. My website, themightyrib.com. I'm the food editor at aymag.com. Look for my stuff. Not only I do a lot of their online stuff, but also do their print. So look for that on the newsstands. And then I do quite a bit of work for a website that's sponsored by First Security Bank. It's called onlyanarc.com. And I do a lot of writing for them. And usually my pieces go live on Friday mornings at 10 a.m. And with Only an Arc, I do a lot of food coverage around Arkansas, not just in Little Rock. So that's where to find me.
Well, I'm starving. It's going to be late dinner for me tonight. But I'm going to totally try to remember, and I need to write down in a minute some of these places that you talked about that I haven't been to. Yeah. So it's really, and it's great keeping up with you. It's so nice to meet you.
Absolutely. And like I said, like I tell anyone, I'll tell you the same thing. If you ever have a question, just shoot me a message. I always get back to folks. I give lots of recommendations behind the scenes, and I'm always glad to help out.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much.
It was a pleasure to meet you.
Absolutely. Cheers. Thank y'all for having me. It was an honor.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.